Fast car. A story of hope and dreams. The evening air hung heavy with the scent of honeysuckle and distant rain clouds. Sarah sat on the front porch steps of the small rental house, her fingers wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee that had long since lost its appeal. The screen door behind her creaked gently in the summer breeze, a sound she had grown to love over the past 3 years of calling this place home. Across the street, old Mr. Henderson was watering his tomato plants with the same methodical care he had shown every evening since Sarah first moved to Maple Street. The steady rhythm of the sprinkler joined the symphony of crickets beginning their nightly chorus. This was her world now. Quiet, predictable, safe. But it hadn't always been this way. Sarah's mind drifted back to those restless nights in her childhood bedroom, staring at water stains on the ceiling while her father's voice echoed through thin walls. The arguments had been endless then. Bills unpaid, promises broken, dreams deferred until tomorrow, which somehow never came. Her mother would sit at the kitchen table afterward, sorting through overdue notices with trembling fingers, her fast car dreams reduced to bus schedules and walking distances to work. "We need to get out of here," her mother had whispered one night, thinking Sarah was asleep. "Just drive until we find somewhere better." Those words had planted seeds in Sarah's teenage heart. Seeds that grew into a desperate need to escape, to find something more than the cycle of disappointment that seemed to define their family. The day after high school graduation, Sarah had packed everything that mattered into 2 duffel bags. She kissed her mother goodbye on the front steps of their apartment building, promising to send for her once she got settled somewhere better. The Greyhound bus ticket to the city felt like a golden ticket in her pocket. For 3 years, Sarah had worked double shifts at a downtown diner, saving every penny she could. The city had been harsh at first, all concrete and car horns and people who looked through her like she was invisible. But she had persevered, driven by the memory of her mother's weary eyes and the promise of something better just beyond the next paycheck. Then came the phone call that changed everything. "Sarah, honey," her mother's voice had been small and distant through the phone. "I'm sick. Really sick this time." The words had hit Sarah like a physical blow. "Cancer. Stage 3. Treatment options limited by their lack of insurance and savings that had never materialized despite years of hoping." Within a week, Sarah had quit her city job, packed those same 2 duffel bags, and moved back home. Not to the old apartment with its peeling wallpaper and broken dreams, but to this small house on Maple Street, where she could take care of her mother with dignity and peace. The treatment had been brutal but ultimately successful. Sarah's mother had fought with a strength that surprised them both, and gradually, color had returned to her cheeks. The fear that had lived in both their hearts for months began to dissolve like morning fog. Now, 18 months later, Sarah's mother was in remission. She spent her days tending a small garden behind the house, coaxing tomatoes and peppers from the rich soil with the same patience she had once reserved for her daughter's endless questions about why they couldn't just drive away from their troubles. "Sarah," her mother's voice came from inside the house, warm and stronger than it had been in years. "Out here, Mom." The screen door opened with its familiar creak, and her mother stepped onto the porch, carrying 2 glasses of sweet tea. She settled beside Sarah on the steps, their shoulders touching in. Comfortable silence. "I've been thinking," her mother said after a long moment, watching Mr. Henderson roll up his garden hose across the street. "About what?" "About that fast car we used to talk about." Her mother's voice carried a note of gentle humor. "Remember how we used to plan all the places we'd go?" Sarah nodded, memories washing over her like waves. "California. We were going to see the ocean. Maybe drive up the coast, find a little town where nobody knew our story." They sat in comfortable quiet, watching the evening settle around them like a familiar blanket. Lightning bugs began their nightly dance in the oak tree that shaded most of their small front yard. "We could still do that, you know," her mother said softly. "Not running away this time. Just exploring." Sarah turned to look at her mother, seeing something new in her eyes. Not the desperate hope of someone trying to escape their circumstances, but the gentle anticipation of someone ready to embrace new possibilities. "I've been saving up," Sarah admitted. "Not for running away, but maybe for running toward something." Her mother smiled, the first truly carefree smile Sarah had seen from her in years. "I'd like that, but this time, we come home to something good." As if summoned by their conversation, the sound of a car engine hummed down Maple Street. It wasn't particularly fast, just a modest sedan driven by Mrs. Chen returning from her evening shift at the hospital. But something about the sound made both women look up and smile. Next summer, her mother asked. Next summer, Sarah agreed. They would plan carefully this time. Save deliberately. Choose their destination not out of desperation but out of curiosity and joy. They would take pictures at roadside diners and sleep in small-town motels with swimming pools. They would see the ocean, yes, but they would also return to this porch, to this life they had built together from love and determination and the kind of strength that only comes from facing your fears head-on. The fast car of their dreams had transformed into something better, the knowledge that home wasn't a place you ran from, but a place you could always return to. And sometimes, that made all the difference in the world. As the last light faded from the summer sky, Sarah reached over and squeezed her mother's hand. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges and small victories, but tonight, sitting on these steps with sweet tea and the sound of crickets, felt like exactly where they were meant to be. Word count: 1087.